Time now for the shocking stat of the week. As Prime Minister Carney continues to promise more government investment, that's despite the numerous examples of multi-billion-dollar failures. We should consider the words of Quebec economist Vincent Galoso. He teaches at George Mason University in the US. In quotes, government should stop calling all spending investment. Real investment earns a return. If it did, the private sector would already be doing it. If it doesn't, it's just spending. Call it what it is. End of quote. But let me repeat, real investment earns a return, which brings me to the shocking stat of the week where, come on, ideology drove the Liberal EV agenda federally, along with some like-minded premiers in some provinces, to commit billions to electric vehicles and batteries, despite the fact that the total carbon emissions from Canada's internal combustion cars and light trucks is estimated to be 0.14 to 0.21%. That's it. Despite the minuscule impact, Ottawa promised an estimated $52.5 billion in government support for EV manufacturing, much of it invested in battery production. Well, thankfully, the majority of the money is tied to actual production, so it hasn't all been spent and not close. But so far, $4.4 billion tax dollars have been spent. The rest gets spent if production targets are met. Federal and provincial governments have also spent over $3 billion in EV rebates, mostly benefiting upper middle class and wealthy Canadians, but it's paid for with the help from lower income taxpayers who can't afford an EV. What's virtually never mentioned is that this $3 billion in subsidies has no measurable impact on Canada's carbon emissions. The one bit of good news, though, for taxpayers, by the way, is both Ottawa and BC are retreating from these rebates. What's particularly troubling, though, is the current state of the various manufacturing projects the federal government has committed our tax dollars to. Listen how poorly our investments are. I'll warn you, it's a bit of a list, but that's the problem. It is a list in no particular order. You got Volkswagen in St. Thomas, Ontario. $500 million has been spent, $14 billion promised. Well, it's now postponed. Stellantis to LG, Windsor, Ontario, $15 billion promised, $2 billion spent, but the production's now halted. Honda, Alliston, Ontario, $7.5 billion promised, $300 million spent. Oh, canceled. Northvolt, Montreal, $7.24 billion promised, $1 billion spent, but the parent company's now filed for bankruptcy protection. There's more. I can go on. Unicor, Loyalist Township, Ontario, $200 million spent. It's now suspended. Ford, EcoPro Cath, Ingersoll, Ontario. Well, $100 million's been spent. It's been canceled, though. GM, Cami, Ingersoll, Ontario, also $259 million promised and spent. Well, it's now facing layoffs. And back to the real world definition of investments, they should be evaluated on the return they make. Just not in the government's world, and that costs every one of us.